maintain 10,000 freeway.
In place, left way 240. Next, turn 310.
Hello again everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are going to ride the Lightning once again with another flight in IndiaFoxtEcho's F-35. Would you believe it's been some 2.5 years since we last looked at the aircraft, and boy oh boy have IndiaFoxtEcho been putting in the work since then. The Lightning now boasts a whole host of upgrades, far too numerous to mention, but the main upgrade that we're going to be focusing on here today is the phenomenal Soundset courtesy of Echo 19 that now comes included with the add-on. As I'm sure that many of you are aware, aircraft sounds, particularly externally, tend to be somewhat of a weakness with a Microsoft Flight Simulator. IndiaFoxtEcho and Echo 19 have proven unequivocally though that awesome sound sets are absolutely possible within MSFS. For today's flight, we find ourselves on the ground at China Lake Naval Air Station, and we're going to be taking the F-35C up for a spin, showcasing just what a superb add-on the Lightning has become in many respects. With that in mind, please do be aware that, as usual, I have added a few of my own touches during editing, so the pilot breathing noises, ATC, and the demonstrated delivery are not included with the add-on. That being said, all of the external aircraft sounds will be stock, and I think you're going to be pretty blown away. One last point that is worthy of note: some of you may hopefully have noticed an improvement in video quality. With its multitude of displays and its supersonic capabilities, I thought the Lightning represented the perfect opportunity for my first upload in 4K. This video will be somewhat of a test for me, so please do let me know in the comments exactly what you made of the viewing experience. On that note, please do bear in mind that there will be some sort of transitionary period, with some older pre-recorded content being uploaded at 1080p. However, based off feedback from this video, newer content most likely going up at 4K. As always, I do hope you enjoy the video. If you do, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. And if you enjoy the content and would like to help support the channel further, you can do so by becoming a channel member or patron. Okay, so today we find ourselves back in the cockpit of the IndiaFoxtEcho F-35. Once again on the ground at China Lake, and the primary focus of our flight here today is to check out the new and improved sound set for the aircraft courtesy of Echo 19. It has to be said the Lightning now has one of the best sound sets that I've heard within Microsoft Flight Simulator to date. And indeed, the aircraft has seen many improvements in general since we last took a look at the add-on some years ago. So given the focus for our flight here, we're going to run through a somewhat abbreviated startup. We've already completed our safety checks as well as our interior checks. The before start checks, the IPP master switch is selected on. We'll take the ICC 1 and 2 switches on here as well. Battery master is selected on, the IPP selector is set through to IPP. PCDs are initializing, we'll just set those through to day, just to brighten things up a little bit here as well for the video. And now just waiting on the PCD, we'll come onto the engine page. Engine parameters look good. On the fuel page we've got 9,900 pounds of fuel on board the jet. Joker fuel set at 5,000 pounds, bingo fuel is set at 2,000 pounds. And the main fuel shuttle valve is indicating open. Come onto the iCores page, we can carry out an iCores test. And onto the lights page, set the position lights on. Just come onto the checklist page here on the right.
Engine.
Okay, so just leaving the test to complete, the park brake is set, we have 30 brake applications available. Helmet visor is down. And for the canopy, a little bit unusual, but going to leave that open here for the start so that you can hear those startup sounds in all of their glory. Running through the cockpit checks then, the safety pins, we've removed both the seat and as well there for the canopy. ICC 1, 2 and 3 switches are selected on, the cabin pressure selector is set through to normal. Battery switch we've obviously taken on here, slightly out of sequence, IPP switch is set through to auto. HMD currently selected off, harness and restraint lines are connected, engine switch is off. Default set as required, the throttle is in the idle position, BOS is set through to normal.
Landing taxi light is selected off, park brake is selected on, landing gear handle is down, jettison is selected as required. PCDs are initialised, the master arm is selected off, auto recovery is normal and guarded, and the aircraft zero rise as well, they're set through to normal. Now for the start itself, we'll come onto the engine start checklist, the engine switch, and go through to run, and we'll guard that up. The start checklist itself, safety pins again have been removed, ICC 1, 2 and 3 switches are on. Park brake is set, battery switch is on, I-course test is complete. IPP will set through to start. Just coming onto the engine page here again to monitor the startup. I'll try and keep fairly quiet here during the start, just pointing out the main events here as we go. So N2 coming up, hydraulic pressures there as well coming up. There's our fuel flow and our light off. Oil pressures come up nicely there as well. Again, really excellent sounds on the jet, overall much improved from what I saw previously, albeit again that was some years ago now. There's our starter cutout. And we do have a good start. The generator I-course warning now extinguished. We can head outside, we'll listen to that Pratt & Whitney F-135 as it runs up before we carry on with the rest of our checks. Okay, so we obviously now have a good start. We are back in the cockpit of the F-35. Another really nice feature that's been added to the aircraft that I wasn't aware of. We now have the inclusion of a 3D internal pilot avatar. Very nicely modelled, as you can see, and I always enjoy 3D avatars. I think they make the aircraft feel just that much more immersive, certainly as well, of course, in VR. Anyway, for the after-start checks, a little bit tricky to see now as the switches are buried away behind our pilot's arm, but the IPP selector is set through to auto. The cabin pressurization selector set through to normal. We'll take the HMD on, we'll come through to day. The PCDs will come through to TSD1 here on the left outer. EFI on the left inner, we'll leave the engine page up here on the right inner, and we'll bring the fuel page up in just a moment's time on the right outer. Comms and radios are set, the altimeters are set. We have an aerodrome elevation of 2,200 feet, both on the primary and on the standby. The flight controls, just come onto the FCS page. We have full up, full down, and neutral, full left, full right, and neutral, and on the rudder, full left, full right, and neutral. We'll come back onto the engine page for the time being. We're not going to run through a check here of the launch bar, the tail hook, and as well the refueling probe. We'll cover off some of that with the VS bike test in just a moment's time. And as well, we're not going to be using any of those aircraft systems here today. So we'll close up the canopy. The taxi light can go on. And for the taxi check, so lights are set as required, SMS page. You can see there we do have the aircraft doors closed up. We'll carry out a VS bike test.
I'm not going to let it get below. If I get 21.
We'll hit the FCS engine reset switch.
So I may take just 6 out of order. 3.
Weapon bay doors are once again closed. We'll come back onto the engine page. For the BOS, we'll come through to BOS. And then back through to normal. There's the refueling probe, as you can see. Again, just being extended there as part of the VS bite test. PMDs are set as required. The AR system is set. HMD is selected on, set through today. Mission systems have been configured. Again, we have a Joker fuel of £5,000, bingo fuel of £2,000. Nav aids and altimeters are set. So again, the taxi light is selected on. We'll come through to low here on the nose wheel steering. Park brake can come off. All clear here on the right.
Standby 1.
And turning up to the left.
4, 6, 7, 5, 6.
So exiting the flight line here, we'll take another left onto the main taxiway. And then this morning we'll be out off runway 32 here at China Lake.
We got good disconnect, reset. Reset ready. A little close, back 1. Move back. This is good, up 2. Further aft, up 2. Up 1, 4 of 2. Move forward. Check flags. 1.
Okay, so we are now lined up here on runway 32 for the before takeoff items. The canopy is closed and locked. We'll arm up the ejection seats. Just a little bit of clipping there on the handle, but I think we can forgive IndiaFoxtEcho such a minor detail. And the seat is armed. Speed brakes are stowed. We'll just come onto the FCS page once again. B2 engine anti-ice not required. It's about 95 degrees outside currently. Of course, that's in Fahrenheit. For the trims, we'll just hit trim resets. And going off the checklist here, which I have, it is slightly out of date, but it calls for a trim of between 7 and 10 units. No stalls on board the aircraft today, so we'll just go with 7 units nose up. And the trim is set. In terms of the wing fold, the wings are showing extended. We'll just visually confirm that here as well. Of course, in the C variant, the wings can fold. Master arm switch, once again, is selected off. And for the takeoff checks then, the battery light is off, CFG is within limits. Trims have been reset on the I-cores, no cautions or warnings. IFE is set, seat has been armed, landing and taxi lights are selected on. Nose wheel steering, I've actually taken off here ahead of the takeoff. I find that a little bit easier than using low. And we are now ready for the takeoff, so we'll come back onto the fuel page. Just holding the aircraft on the brakes. Initially we'll come through to 80% or thereabouts here on the power. And the aircraft just hunkering down there as the thrust builds up. Okay, off the brakes. And into that afterburner detent. Just wait until we come up through 130, easing back on the stick. And we're up. Positive climb, bringing up the gear. We'll pitch to level off here at around 200 feet. Let that speed build up to around 350 knots. And there's 350, so braking out to the left, straight back round into the pattern for runway 32. And off the burners. Established on a left-hand downwind, we'll come all the way back off the power. First manoeuvre we're going to make is just a low-speed pass with the gear down over the runway. So for now, just idle thrust, letting that speed roll off. Interestingly, still needing trim here. I believe, of course, the real-world F-35 is fly-by-wire. Just getting rid of some of that trim. I know over the course of the F-35's life here in the sim, it's gone through various iterations on the flight model, including many adjustments to the fly-by-wire system, and at some points even removing the fly-by-wire system. Okay, speed check, we'll take the gear down. Just bring up the thrust again to maintain the speed. We'll come around the corner here at around 170 knots. Really nice as well here having the HMD. Obviously you can fly the jet without having to look straight ahead for the parameters. Okay, so as we come around the corner, rolling off that thrust, we'll head down the runway here at around 140 knots. That'll keep us just above the stall speed. Again, I don't know how true or not it is to the aircraft, but it seems as though you can't really do any particularly high alpha maneuvers here in the F-35. Can't really hang the aircraft on the thrust, it just wants to stall a little bit in the sim. Okay, so we're good there on the speed, bring in the thrust again, maintaining around 140 knots. Coming straight down 3-2. Once we come and beam the flight line, we'll bring in the afterburner once again. Okay, so onto the afterburner, bringing up the gear. And again, to let that speed build up, we'll just make a lazy wing over here, back out towards the left. Certainly as well, the aircraft is much more fun to fly than it was in its initial state. Again, I think it's 2, if not 3 years since we last looked at the F-35, so IndiaFoxtEcho, of course, have been very hard at work in the intervening periods. And just come up on 300 knots, so once again, we'll take out the burner. Okay, for the next pass, we'll come down the runway once again. This time going for a roll. So good on the speed, rolling in back towards China Lake. We'll go for a slow roll. In terms of our fuel, 7.8 thousand pounds. So still plenty of margin here above bingo fuel. And we'll get that speed up to around 300 knots here, ahead of the manoeuvre. They're looking good on speed, right out 200 feet, that'll do us nicely. Again, feeling like I need some trim here ahead of the manoeuvre. And the aircraft just feeling a little bit nose heavy there as we come through the roll. And again, good on the speed, off the burners. Next we'll go for a loop. 7.4 thousand pounds of fuel now. Max G so far, around 5G. Well within the aircraft's limits.
Up to 210, I'm looking for a shortcut and a final altitude of 300 for 911.
And once we come around the corner, we'll come back onto the afterburner, pick up that speed ahead of the loop. We'll enter the loop just below 450 knots. Anything above that, we get a flight control degradation I-cause message, which I assume is the flight controls being limited by the aircraft speed. There's 440. Okay, so onto that burner again. There's the FCS degraded message. And as we bleed off speed, the message clearing. So all the way over the top. Keeping reasonably nice and straight here with the runway. Off the power. We're going to come through the top of this loop, we'll feed back into another one. Then we're going to go vertical. Just pulling back on the stick, up to around 6 Gs. Back onto the burner again. 350 knots. Pilot's struggling a little bit with that one, 6.2 Gs.
Stable movement 13 left.
Altitude 996 will maintain 10,000 to freeway.
In place, left way 340. Next, turn 310. We're after to make a 17:22 start time. I didn't notice any adverse interactions.
We're up to 24 distance.
So last manoeuvre here of the sequence, we'll just make a high-speed, low-level pass.
There's 30.
Try and get the jet up through Mach 1. Straight down the runway, again at low level. Hopefully that will give us a really good view of the lightning. And as well, again, an excellent demonstration of the really rather superb Echo 19 audio. I will say the audio is still not quite up to DCS standards, but it is getting very close now. It would be great if we could see this level of audio added to some of the other fast jets within the sim.
Get you to come forward too, please.
At the moment the F-35 is rather leaps and bounds ahead of most other aircraft.
Number 37.
I'm sure that at the very least we'll probably see most of IndiaFoxtEcho's lineup improved, so for example the Tornado, maybe some further improvements as well to the Tomcat. Those would be certainly very welcome additions. Okay, so 370 on the speed, 6.2 tons on the fuel. Which is going to work out pretty nicely for us. We're probably going to be coming through Joker fuel just as we finish up this manoeuvre. Mach 0.7 currently. There's the FCS degraded caution once again, we'll cancel that.
The right, left 2.
Okay, Mach 0.9. Engine limits there as well, we'll just disregard, again just for the fly past, doesn't look like we're quite going to break Mach 1. 0.93 down the runway, 600 knots. And we'll come fully back on the stick now. All the way up to 10 Gs. Bleeding off a ton of speed there as you do. We'll just ease off, avoid blacking out. And coming off the power. Back out onto the reciprocal. And we'll let that speed bleed off. Shouldn't have any need here for the air brakes. We'll just let that speed roll off naturally. Once we're down below 250 knots to take the gear, come back in for our approach. So 5.4 tons on board. Again, fuel working out very nicely for us. Just a little bit of trim. And if we just bring the aircraft back round now, we should be able to bleed off the rest of that speed with a little bit of G. Come onto the checklist page once again. The landing checks, the exterior lights will take in just a moment's time. Good now on the speed, we'll take the gear down. And just waiting there on 3 greens. Landing light can go on. In terms of the speed, we'll hold 150 knots. The landing lights are set, altimeters are set, defog is set. Right out, currently showing 1600, navigator set, gear is down, we have 3 greens. Again for the airspeed, we're looking at 150 knots down final approach, 135 over the threshold. And a little bit high here at the moment. Good though on the speed. So nicely within the E-bracket. Again, the F-35 really feeling like it needs trimming. I know with the gear down, I believe the fly-by-wire law does come out in the IndiaFoxtEcho F-35. So nicely within the E-bracket, we'll just put the flight path vector there, just slightly shy of the touchdown zone. A little bit fast now. And holding the aircraft off. There's touchdown. A little bit of right rudder just to straighten up. Back onto the centre line. And we can let the jet roll through. We'll vacate off to the right. Okay, so we just vacated runway 32, just making our way back in towards the flight line. We may as well come back onto the FCS page and we'll get those wings folded up. Give ourselves a little bit more room to manoeuvre as we get the F-35 parked up. So you can see we have the wings folded and the Joker fuel advisories. In terms of our fuel, 4.5 thousand pounds of fuel now on board the jets. And just visually confirming here as well, as you can see, the wings there of the F-35C variant are now folded. So we'll go get the Lightning parked up back in our previous parking spots and get the aircraft shut down. Got to say, overall really enjoyed that flight. Really nice to see just how much more work IndiaFoxtEcho have sunk into the aircraft post-release. There aren't too many developers that do that within the sim. IndiaFoxtEcho have always been a great dev, but it is fair to say that the F-35 was a little bit haphazard in some respects upon release. Certainly though, everything seems to have been fixed up, and if you are looking for a slightly more casual, modern fast jet experience, this aircraft really ticks all of the boxes now within the sim. Probably one of the most feature-complete fast jets actually available in terms of, for example, the 3D pilot avatar, the excellent sounds, as well modelled weapons, although we didn't look at those here today. Of course, as usual, only visually modelled. Okay, so again, the nose wheel straightened up, onto the brakes, we'll set the park brake once again. Just going to open up the canopy here ahead of the shutdown so that once again you can hear all of those wonderful sounds during the shutdown sequence. So canopy's open, we have the canopy and ladder unlocked advisories. We'll take the HMD off and we'll cut the engine. Good shutdown there, we'll disarm the seat.
Engine.
Okay, we've got an engine RPM low warning on the I-cores, expecting to see that of course, same as well for the Gen Fail 3 and the FCS degraded. So seat has been disarmed, we'll install the pin once again, same as well there for the canopy. The ICC 1, 2 and 3 switches can all go off. And we'll just leave the battery master on for the time being. We have a good shutdown back on the ground at China Lake.
So there you go guys, I do hope you enjoyed our quick blast in the IndiaFoxtEcho F-35 Lightning II. Once again, it is brilliant to see that IndiaFoxtEcho are continuing to update the add-on, even some 2.5 years after release. A highly commendable effort, I'm sure you'll agree. As I mentioned during the taxi in, the F-35 at this point is certainly now right up there in terms of quality, and if you want a 5th gen fighter for Microsoft Flight Simulator, this is probably the one to get. Clearly, Echo 19 has done an absolutely superb job with the Soundset. The MSFS Lightning really is now nipping at the heels of some DCS aircraft. And perhaps more importantly still, we do now have conclusive proof of just what the Microsoft Flight Simulator sound engine is actually capable of. Hopefully the F-35 will be a little bit of a wake-up call to a number of other devs going forwards, as sound is such an integral part of the overall simming experience. Once again, ladies and gents, I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider giving it a like. If you want to see more content from the channel, then please do consider subscribing as well. And again, if you would like to help support the channel further, you can do so by becoming a channel member or patron. I'll leave a link to both of those down in the video description below. As always, a very big thank you to all of my channel members and patrons who make this content possible. It is very much appreciated. To all of you, I do hope you're having a great day wherever you are. Take really good care, and I will see you all again soon.